Perek Hamishi, Hilchos Chametz UMatzah. We're going to beginning to discuss the halachas of things which are chametz and kashrin kelim for Pesach. Halacha Aleph. Ein osir mishum chametz Pesach ela chameshes mini hadagim bilvad. The isser against chametz applies only to the 5 species of grain. Ve'ishnei mini achitin shein achita v'akusemes. They include 2 species of wheat, which are wheat as spelt. And there are 3 species of barley, which are barley, oats, and rye. So that is Chametz Midiraisa. Chametz Midiraisa, you have wheat as wheat and spelt, and 3 species of barley, oats, and rye. And however, when it comes to kidneys, rice, millet, beans, lentils, and so on, so midiraisa, ein behem, there's no, even midrabanan, ein behem mishum chametz, there's no isser of chametz. Elafilu losh kemach eres geyitzben, bereitchen v'chiso b'bigodem achinit pach, k'mei botzah shehizmetz, ariz a mutter b'achidam. Why? Even if a person needs rice flour, with boiling water and covers it with fabric until it rises like dough, that has become chametz or leavened, it is still permitted. This is not leavening, or rather this is the decay of the flour. Base. Chameshes mini dagan elo, im lashon mei peres vavad, beloy shem mayim ba'elam, enem ba'elam b'dichimutz. For these 5 species of grain, if flour for these species is needed with fruit juice alone, without water, so then it will never become leaven. There's a mutter b'achilu shemei appears machmitzin al masrichen. Even if flour is placed with these juices the entire day until the dough rises, it's permitted to be eaten on Pesach. For fruit juice does not cause dough to become chametz. It just causes the flour to decay. For example, that includes fruit juice, wine, milk, honey, olive oil, apple juice, pomegranate juice, other wines, oils, and beverages, as long as water whatsoever was not mixed in. But if even a little bit of water is mixed in, then the halacha is machmitz and it does become chametz. Halacha gimel, emivashlin chitin b'mayim, ve'erifos v'lekemach and levivos, ve'embishal as a chametz gomer. On Pesach, one should not cook wheat in water, for example, cracked wheat or flour in water, like dough balls. And if it does, it's mamish chametz, which eats bakbu b'tafshlin, as long as the kernels crack open within the dish. We do not fry dough and oil in a frying pan. However, we may cook a loaf of matzah or roasted flour. Before it boiled a lot of water and afterwards place flour instead, behold, it is permitted because it's cooked immediately before it could ever become chametz. It's accepted custom in Bavel, in Spain, in the entire Western diaspora to forbid this practice. This has been decreed lest one not boil the water well enough. Halacha Dalet. Mutter the vashla dogan a kem of mea peres, permissible to cook grain or flour in fruit juice. In batzuk shalosh mea peres, in bishlam mea peres kolo al machmas b'shemer has a mutter shmei peres in machmitzin. Now, even though dough is kneaded with fruit juice, cooked with fruit juice or fruit or fried with oil, it's permitted. Pan is permitted. Frying pan is permitted. Fruit juice does not make some chametz. Hey, caramel. Roasted grain which was singed in the fire and then grounded in flour. Flour should not be cooked with water. lest it has not been roasted well with fire. And it becomes leavened and cooked. When preparing new pots, we should not cook them in anything rather than matzah that was baked on then ground with the flour. It's forbidden to do so with roasted flour, for perhaps it will not be roasted well. Let's become chametz. Halacha vav. In Beilin, Ein Beilin asasein b'mayim b'mbesam neishin rofen machmitzim behema. Do not steer barley in water on Pesach to remove its husk, because the kernels are soft and become chametz very quickly. Ein bolo is a person that steer in V'him bolo and rough oktishim hinichel al pi abiv sheifen alevachalish is bakar is asur. If one did steer barley in water and the kernels softened to the point that they were placed at the opening to a roasted pan, the power loaves were usually baked, and it's asur. If they have not reached this degree of softness, that is mutter. Zayin. Hachitim. When it comes to wheat, mutter live loisim b'mayim v'lahasser suban. When it comes to wheat, it's permissible to steer it in water to remove the bran and then grind them, as is done when grinding flour. Became accustomed in all these places not to steer wheat in water, as the kernels be left aside and become chametz. Ches tafshel from this bashal hitzuboi seira mechitim. In this bakar called tafshel also shenasar bir chametz. From this bakar mitzilis b'sefenis b'echlon shar tafshel shenadav l'shivlo in this bashal in v'leinit bakar chametz gom shatir v'nei elam divriset. A dish that was cooked and barley or wheat was discovered inside. If the grains have cracked open, the entire dish is forbidden. The chametz has become mixed together with it. If they have not cracked open, they must be removed and burnt, but the remainder of the dish may be eaten. Shulin was given because grain that has been stirred in water without cracking open is not the actual chametz. It's forbidden by the Torah. It's only midrabban. Since the Torah says keep watch over the matzahs, be careful of the matzahs and protect them from any possibility of becoming chametz. I think the Chacham says Chacham said a person must be careful regarding the grain that he eats on Pesach and make sure that no waters come into contact with it after it has been harvested, so it not become chametz. I should not love mayim. Shem shel salaf lekagos the kaiming. Amechin so mediyek dishi echlanu kidim Pesach. Grain that sunk in a river or came in contact with water, just as it's also to eat it on Pesach, it's also to keep in possession. Rather, you should sell it to eat before it becomes also, and inform him what happens so that he can eat it before Pesach. If he sells it to a goy before Pesach, he should sell a small number of individuals. So it'll be finished before Pesach, lest the goy go and sell it to another yid. Allah of Yud. Dogon shenafal alav delef. A grain upon which water leaking from the roof has fallen. Was manchutated tipa achar tipa filokolim kolene boladichimutz. If it's continuously to drop, so it doesn't the whole day, then it won't become chametz. However, if it stops in mishta kashir, if it remains untouched for the standard measure of the time, in other words, the 18 minutes, then how's it osir? Then it's osir. We don't need a large dough on Pesach lest to become chametz. Rather, the size of the dough confined to the measure on which the obligation to separate challah. We don't need hot water with water heated in the sun, or with water that was drawn the present day, only with water that the rest of the day. A person who is over and needs using the above, it's usher. It basically takes tachas hashemesh with tolish, with tachas rakia b'im oven mafil magam she'en hashemesh zurachas b'ov l'tachas taniachas isa v'tisase b'dover acher. A woman should not sit in the sun and knead, nor should she knead under the open sky on the cloudy day, even in a place where the sun is not shining. She should not leave the dough and become involved in other matters. If she both kneads and bakes, she must have 2 containers of water, which is one to smooth the matzahs and one to pull off her hands. If she violated these instructions and kneaded dough in the sun, or did not cool off her hands, or made a dough larger than the measure on which the obligation to separate the challah of the loaf is permitted. What is the measure for which one is obligated to separate challah? 43 1/5 eggs of average size by volume and not by weight. As long as a person is busy with the dough, even the entire day, will not become chametz. If he lifts up his hand and allows the dough to rest, so that it rises to the extent that the noise will resound when a person claps it with his hands, so then it becomes chametz and he has to burn it right away. If a noise does not make sound, so if he waited the time 18 minutes to walk a meal, so then he has to burn it right away. The surface has become wrinkled, to the extent that it resembles a person whose hearer stands on end of fright. Behold, it's forbidden to eat from it, but one is not chayav kodesh reading it. There were 2 doughs which people stopped eating at the same time and left unattended. From one sound the class, from the other didn't. So the halacha is both of them should be burnt. Behold, it's chametz. Halacha tezvav. Ein eisen stikin amatziyarin bepesam neisha she'alein. U'mischamtzim beisas yasin. One should not make thick loaves with design on Pesach, because the woman takes time making them. Dough will become chametz. So therefore, professional bakers are allowed to make such designs because they're skilled in their craft and they're very, very fast in execution. Private person is ushered to make a design, even if he does so using the pre-cut form. This chumrah was instituted less other attempts to make the design without using the forms, delay in their work, and cause the dough to become chametz. The water used to wash one's hands and the kneading bowl after the kneading is completed, and similarly the water used when eating, behold, it should be poured out in a place which slopes downwards, so it will not collect in place and become chametz. One place and become chametz. The halacha is we should not soak bran water and leave it in front of chickens, lest it become chametz. However, one can boil bran for them and then place them before them. Lastly, the majority of people have already adopted the custom of not boiling grain products. Lest the water not be boiled thoroughly. And it's permitted to prepare bran or flour for chickens and water if they are fed immediately, or if one places before them and stands over them to ensure that the food will not stand more than the meal. As long as they peck it, or one turns it by hand, it don't become chametz. So when it finishes eating, when she wants out the utensil, water and pour it out in a place which slopes downwards. It tests. A woman should not soak bran which she intends to take to the bathhouse in water beforehand. However, she may rub dry bran on her skin. Person should not chew wheat and then place it on the wound, for it will become chametz. Should not place flour into the charesis. If one does so, he should burn it immediately. They should because it will cause the flour to become leavened very fast. Should not place flour in mustard. If one did so, he should eat it immediately. Mutter lahan losses atat fallen shumshum kamech yitz melatecha budget. It's permissible to place spices, sesame seeds, poppy seeds, and like in dough. Now, similarly, it's permissible to knead the dough with water and oil, honey and milk, or to baste them. However, in the first day, it's forbidden to knead the or baste matzahs. Not because of its chametz, but rather it should be poor man's bread. What is bavad, which historically is zikr and tamid, it's only the first day that has to be lachamayni. Halacha chaf aleph. Kol kli shayrish lishtamish. And the chametz b'tzen. Mutli lishtamish be matzah b'tzen. The chut m'klisham nichem be'asur, klisham nichem be'chlitzim, l'shchametz kosher. All other were kalim that were used for chametz while cold may be used for matzah while cold, except for the utensils in which yeast and charesis were placed. An eating bowl which chametz is needed and left to become leavened is considered as a place where yeast is soaked, and we do not use it on Pesach. Earthenware roasting pan on which loaves chametz are baked during the entire year should not be used to bake on Pesach. If it was filled with coals and eaten on the place where chametz was cooked, matzah is permitted to be cooked up. Kli matchis, ukli avonim shel nishtamesh ben chametz bereitzim b'kli dishin, yigayin k'teis v'il posten eisen all over the kli gadol mala hamayim martichan eisen. Rafnal shedin b'eisen nishtamesh ben b'matzah. V'chin esakinin martiach salav v'sanitza b'kli dishin rafnal nishtamesh ben b'matzah. Metal and stone utensils in which chametz was boiled and water as a kedushin, pots and stew pots, should be placed inside a large utensil. Should be covered with water, and the water should be boiled with them inside until they release what they absorb. Afterwards, they should be washed off with cold water, and then one may use it for matzah. Similarly, with knives, blades, and the handle should be boiled in the kedushin. Afterwards, one may use it for matzah. Halacha chavdal kli matzahs v'avonim kli ayitzim shenishtamesh b'chametz u'tishini. In cases listen to kli gadol v'nissen aleim marim reitzim v'nichel isam b'seich ha'shifatu v'achar shiftim nishtamesh b'hem b'matzah. Utensils of metal, stone and wood, which were used for chametz as a kli sheni, bowls or cups should be placed in a large utensil and boiled water poured on them. They should be left in the large utensil since they release the chametz they absorbed. Afterwards, they should be washed with matzah. Hopefully, cheres shemsham ben chametz b'chamein mikleishin king teres ben teisheni in kairis ben shem mishuvim mishun ba'aver sheis ben king schuches and shecheres kamoshain im shtash ben b'matzah manichim not kapesach b'ashben. All earthenware kalim that were used for chametz in hot water, whether as a kedushin, several pots or glisheni, doesn't matter bowls whether they were glazed or coated with lead, So they come like glass with a simple earthenware. We do not use them for matzah. Rather, we put them aside for basic until then we may cook with them. A person possesses a keli which is a kli and desires to boil it in order to prepare for Pesach. However, he cannot find a large utensil which to place it in to boil it. Behold, he may place a border of clay around its top edge from the outside and fill it with water. The water overflows its edge. Then he will boil the water in it, and this is enough. Afterwards, he washes it off and may use it for matzah. Perek Shishin in the laws of Chametz UMatzah. Today we're going to discuss, this perek we're going to discuss the laws of eating matzah, proper kavanah in eating matzah. Let's begin. Aleph. Mitzvah asim natir lechal matzah b'lil chamisha osir. It's a positive mitzvah natir to eat matzah on the 15th of Nisan. Shnem, like it says, ba'erev teichel matzahs. In the evening you should eat matzahs. B'chol makom b'chol zman, any place and any time. V'tel ha'achila zu b'karban Pesach. It's not dependent on eating the karban Pesach. Ela zoi mitzvah b'fnei atzma. It's a separate mitzvah. But it's also called alayla. The mitzvah is the entire night. B'shar regel. The rest of the holiday, achilas matzah is only rishus. You don't have to. If you want to eat matzah, you can. If you want to eat rice, millets, or clusters, or pears, that's also fine. However, on the 15th is a obligation. Once a person eats a kazayas matzah, is yotza. Base. Bola matzah yotza. Bola mar yotza. If a person swallows matzah, is yotza. Mor is not. Bola matzah mor ke'echod. What if you swallow it together? The matzah is yotzi, the mor le yotza. Why? Shah mor kedfil matzah. You're not yotza matzah because mor because it's tough to the matzah. Krofim b'sivki. It's been a blana after a matzah le yotza. If you're after it with certain fibers swollen, he's not even fulfilled the obligation of matzah. A person who eats matzah without the intention to fulfill the matzah, goyim refuse, force him to eat it, so he fulfills the obligation. Person who ate kazayas matzah while he's like very sick, like he's not himself. In other words, he's an epileptic, and afterwards he recovered, so he has to eat the kazayas again. Why? Because the consumption of the first matzah that he ate took place at the time that he was patur from matzah. Dalet. Person does not fulfill the obligation of eating matzah unless he has one of the 5 species. The matzah has to be one of the 5 species. Remember, like it says, Hilchos Chametz UMatzah Perek, it has to be things that could potentially be chametz. Machol on matzah, then these materials, these ingredients, and ben matzah, like shem ben chametz, they cannot, rice, milk, and kidneys cannot be used to fulfill the obligation of matzah because they can never become chametz. Hey, person makes dough from wheat and rice. If it has the taste of grain, a person can fulfill his obligation. He says, dough made as food for dogs. When the shepherds eat from it, however, if they don't eat from it, because it's not guarded the matzah. Is a person that makes dough from either wheat or edis. Again, continue. Matzah if you have matzah which was needed with fruit juice, you do not need it with wine, oil, honey, or milk, because it says lechem eini. If a person does go ahead and eat it, then eats it leyot tzedich. Eats it when a person is not yet with these with a bran or coarse bran of a lush who has a kemach b'subim shalem or son of a sir pas eats in the chivasi. when we need flour together with its bran and make it into a loaf and fulfill its obligation. A loaf made with fine flour is permitted, and the person, if he fulfills obligation, will not say this is a poor man's bread. Vav, ein matzah shenefes betaner bilpus ben echad matzah shenefes betaner bilpus. Shehit bekat batzek bilpus varkach etiach men shetiach varkach hitbik filo ofa bekakar arzuyetza bo yidichavasi. One may fulfill his obligation with matzah baked in either an oven or a roasted pot, whether the dough was stuck to the roasting pot and then the pot was heated, or whether the pot was heated and then the dough was stuck to it. Even if the dough was baked to the ground, one may fulfill the obligation. Similarly, if the matzah was not thoroughly baked, one may fulfill his obligation with it, provided that strands of dough will not extend from it when broken. Even if the matzah was not thoroughly baked, one may fulfill his obligation with it, provided strands of dough will not extend from it when broken. A person may fulfill his obligation with cake or matzah soaked in other substance as long as it has not been dissolved. A person cannot fulfill his obligation with matzah that has been cooked, for it does not have the taste of bread. A person cannot fulfill his obligation by eating matzah, which is forbidden to him. For example, a person who ate matzah made from tevel, matzah made from or matzah that was stolen. In fact, this is the general rule. All matzah which a brachas hamazon can be recited, you could use. If a brachas hamazon cannot be recited, you can't use it. A kohen, if he fulfills the obligation of matzahs from challah and truma, even though it's not matzah suited to everybody. It could be yitzim ma'aser shenim b'Yerushalayim. Aber ein yitzim b'matzah shel bikurim afilu b'Yerushalayim. Why? There's no heter to eat in all the places that are yishuv. Ma'aser sheni efshei shibada b'echel b'chol makom kasa b'chol mishvashichem teich l'matzah. Matzah really l'echol b'chol mishvash so yitzim yideichel b'esa. Which implies all matzah that is fit to be eaten and all settlements would be used to fulfill one's obligation. Thus, those from the things, giving offering and cakes from the nazir can't be eaten. Like it says, if you're made it to sell in the market as a yetzah could be yetzah. Therefore, he was making them, he's also washed for the sake of the matzah. Everyone is obligated in matzah. Even noshim avodim. Kol sheichel lechol pas. Kol bar eats pas. Mechanech eisv mitzvahs. Mechanech mitzvahs. Tzilis kazayis matzah, and you feed him kazayis matzah. Chayla yizogim sheni yochel lechol matzah. Shreli rochel b'mayim achilnis v'shleini meis. A Kolel zaken which can eat matzah. What we do is we soak in a cake of matzah in water and feed it to him, provided it's not dissolved. It aleph. In divrei seifrim shem maftin achar matzah klum afilu klois v'gezim kitzben afal pisha afal matzah v'ochal chalel machos cheres aperes kitzben cheres avich kazayis matzah v'acher apes. Midrash banan that nothing at all is eaten after the matzah, not even roasted seeds, nuts, or the like. Rather, even though one eats matzah and afterwards ate other fruits of the like, one returns and eats a second matzah at the end of the meal, stops to eat. Also, Chum forbade a person from eating matzah on Erev Pesach, on Pesach Eve, in order to be a distinction between partaking of its food and eating on the evening of the 15th of the matzah. Misha Chametz UMatzah Perek, the halacha is makin eisi makas marta. Also lachol erev Pesach making a mincha mamat. You cannot eat erev Pesach from mincha oros. They should call us Hilchos Matzah Perek. Should come in to having a desire to eat matzah. Hilchos Matzah Perek, you malik creates men. You can eat some fruit and vegetables as long as you don't fill your body. Even Pesach Chametz would starve himself. Pesach they should Hilchos Matzah Perek mitzvahs coming love that they should come hungry to the seder to eat matzah. Other Yom Tevim, one can continue eating until darkness. Hilchos Chametz UMatzah Perek Shvi. We're going to be discussing now Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim and remembering it. This is a station of Torah Saper Benisin Iflesh Nasal Avisin Mitzrayim Balel Chamisha Benisin. To the positive commandment, not Teda, to tell over the wonders and miracles that happened to our fathers. Mitzrayim on the 15th of Nisan, like it says, remember the day that he left Mitzrayim. Like it says about remembering Shams. How do we know that Zachar Mazeh is on the 15th? That's when another pasuk it says that you should tell your children on this day, which means the day that the matzah maror is in front of you. Even if he doesn't have a son, even the great sages are obligated to tell over the Yetzias Mitzrayim. The halachas are meshubach. It's a mitzvah to tell the children, even if they don't ask. Like it says, we got the bilfil. If you should the kids that have so. Why you cut anything? If he was a minor or he wasn't so smart, so I'm like, we're all slaves in Mitzrayim. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, out of being a slave. If he's smart, then tell them over what Moshe did. If he should die, based on the capacity of the child. The child asks they should do some sort of change on the night of Pesach, in order that they should ask. They should ask, why is this night different than all the nights? And he said, this would happen. How do you change? Give them nuts and walnuts, take away the table before they eat. Snatch matzah from this, from here to here, from this hand to this hand. If he doesn't have a son, his wife asks him. And the issue is not married. Now, even if it's Levada, and he asks so we have to start with the Gnus and finish with praise. And we make that up a little care from you so we start, and we say, we start with describing we start with Gnus. In other words, we say, in the age of Terach, our ancestors denied Hashem, and straight after vanity, pursued idol worship. One concludes that we were Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. And you darshem aram evidav shigmer zavar but mes marat medrash parshas harzim meshubach. Hey, kol mi shalei avar shish levav. It doesn't matter these three things. Which are Pesach Matzah Maror or Miriam. What does it mean? Pesach Hashem Pesach Kodesh Baruch Hu Abata V'Sim Mitzrayim. Hashem passed over the houses of our ancestors, like it says. R'maytam Zevach Pesach Ol Hashem Meridin. Maror is Hashem Shemera Mitzrayim Mitzrayim V'Sim Mitzrayim. Hashem bittered our days in Mitzrayim. Matzah Hashem Shemera Nigala Dvar Melech Yelenim is called Haggadah. Kolel Der Chaman and the Har Sasmi Yedavos Batzmi Yotzat V'Shub Mitzrayim. But Hashem, like it says, V'Sana Yitzim Misham. V'Adav Zet Siva V'Ter V'Zarad Gave the Yisa Klemer Kido Ata Batzma Yisa Emer Yotz L'Chir V'Niftas. Each and every generation, a person must present himself as he himself was left Mitzrayim. Took us out of Mitzrayim. Regarding this matter, Hashem commanded us in the third, remember that you were a slave, as if you yourself were a slave and went out of freedom and were redeemed. Fikach, Kishasei Adam B'Layla Zeh, Tzarich, Lech V'lushtus V'mesed Derechidus. Therefore, when a person feasts on this night, he must eat and drink while he's reclining, in each manner of freedom. Everybody has to have 4 cups of wine. Even a poor person who takes his money from tzedakah, cases, is to have 4 cups. Shir kol case is a revis. Even a poor person should not eat until he can recline. A woman does not need to do a seba. She needs to do a seba. And Mesa does not do a seba. Unless the Rav gives him rishus for a seba. Simin in a seba on the right is not a seba. Mesa al person goes on his neck or on his face. It's not a seba. By when you eat matzah, which see a seba case say that. Shachilas and Shtesan is from here a hesiv as a b'shubach b'mam, but you don't need ein tzarch. These cups, these 4 cups, have to be diluted so the wine is pleasant. It should not be less than a revis of this wine. So the halacha is yotzei arba cases layot the chedes. Shos arba cases mizum b'asachas. So that yotzei the chedes. So the yotzei the arba cases b'mshos of mikol case is aruba is yotzei. Halacha yot kol case the case marba cases ayel mavar halav make the own bracha of neatzim. Case dishin you say Amar lo kedishim. Case any kern lo sagado. Case dishin mavar halav. So mustn't be to be. Gamer love the Sahalam Varkala Brooks, a Shivach in cases Elabin and Rox Literature Jason and Station Luvis in a Shesa. In Aleph. Achinesis, Charesis is missing in the Recimin. Why is Yachlatisha? I gave them a bone sign. It's a mitzvah for them by the Chalchamim to commemorate the clay which our forefathers worked in China. He said, what do you do? Leifens one of Magrigas, it's smoking the Yitzban. Take dried figs or raisins or the like. There's nice relation to you take and Chametz is about or metablin eisen metal committed betem vin eisen al shochem the Pesach. We take dates, dried figs or raisins, like crush them and add vinegar to them, mix them with spices, and we bring them to the table on the night of Pesach. I feel as more is in him ateda b'fnei atzmei el clearly b'achil's psachim. More is totally on the Chilas Pesach. Shemitz say achasein. It's one mitzvah. Mrs. Asa say achas la'achol b'shar Pesach al matzah sumerim. However, the we say from la'achol matzah levada b'layla zeh filling sham korban Pesach merim. Whereas among materes hein chazeres v'aloshim atamcha v'hacharbina ba'awar. So maror is romaine lettuce, endives, horseradish, dates, ivy, and wormwood. Kolachem mechamesh mini yarag elu is a maror. B'machem mehen. As long as it's moist, we eat some because shalan or filu yavish. One may fulfill one's obligation of their stem, even if it's dry. If they are boiled, pickled, or cooked, then in eats a many